welcome to a new edition of Indigenization Appreciation Hour. Well, I'm trying to be regular. I hope you're regular with the support as well. So do spread the word, do subscribe, do induce others to subscribe, and of course, support us through the means that are available. Because indigenization could, still do with a lot of support. Anyway, let's get down to the questions. So we have Arnab Chatterjee asking, good evening. Recently, there are reports about MDL making XLUUV autonomous submarine. Can they be as efficient as manned subs? When can they be expected? They should be expected by the end of this decade. Efficient as in efficient at what? Efficient as at dispensing with certain tasks? Maybe. But they can definitely be efficient in certain kinds of tasks which do not require, a certain kind of human intervention. I'm thinking about tracking something or being a mothership for other smaller vessels, smaller underwater unmanned vessels. Of course, there are many issues here. It's not so simple, but that's where it is right now. Okay, we have a question from Pranav. He says, Econ Salon nahi kiya kal, please. Just started reading the Heat and Dust project. How is the Josh in Dalalistan with the NUH 45 Rudra and Helena? Just saw the new list. Bahut sadme mein hai kya? Okay, Econ Salon, I postponed it by a week. I couldn't start it yesterday because I was a tad too busy, but it will happen. And also we are putting together a few things at our end. Right. The second, you started reading the Heat and Dust project, which is excellent. Please let me know how you find it. Third question is the Josh in Dalalistan with the. I think Dalalistan is a little, what should I say, muted at the moment. I had said that they won't be too happy with a whole bunch of items that they'll find on the third positive indigenization list. I tweeted this out, and I think that was pretty much on the mark. Okay, next question. Siddharth Singh says, hello sir, Shubha Nama Varsha to you as well. What changes is the Indian Navy looking for in ALH, LUH at this stage? Would this not delay induction by a few years? Well, they are looking, I think discussions are already underway, have been underway for a while. So they'll be looking at changes. I told you there's this whole issue of, endurance, payload, stuff like that. I think in one of the previous IAHs I had mentioned that while HAL Dhruv is not equivalent to a KA-27 per se in terms of its weight, in terms of all of weight and all that, but with the advances in technology, etc., and the fact that we can customize this particular platform, since India has design control over it, solutions can be fashioned that obviate the need for depending on any imports. So I don't think there'll be very significant delays because I think this work is already underway. Okay, next question. It's from AKC. The Air Chief recently mentioned the Armenian and Ukrainian crisis as a reason for the Army's renewed focus on drone warfare. Do they have no think tank or wargaming? Bhagwan bharose ladenge kya? No, they do have think tanks and they do have wargaming capability as well. This is a sort of a statement made for the public, made for public consumption. And of course, since this is greatly talked about, but I can say only one thing. The solutions will have to be indigenous. Relying on Israel or somebody else to come up with a solution for the new drone problem will not work ultimately. Because, today we are talking about a multi-layered defense paradigm. We have had multi-layered defenses for a while. But what you need now, the kind of integration you need, the kind of sensing you need, etc., and the kind of, essentially the kind of OPSEC you need, it is highly important that you have your own systems for that. Okay, next question. Pranav is asking with the super sticker, what is the state of the HTSC 1200 and are there plans for a turboprop based on the same? And please talk about AHWR, PHWR, the Chinese thorium modular MSR, and have you heard of Thorcon and their plans MSR? Okay, there's a lot of questions there. HTSC 1200, I think it's progressing. I think some key developments have happened. As far as the HTSC 1200 project is concerned, I think you'll hear about it soon enough. Plans for a turboprop based on the same no, but there are plans for turboprops. NAL has a plan. NAL is developing I think a turboprop. Please talk about AHWR. AHWR ground break has not happened. PHWR 10 are being built in fleet mode. So 10 new ones should come online by the end of 2032. Have you heard of the Chinese thorium modular MSR? Yeah, well, they're finding out that it's not so simple to have build a molten salt reactor, which can even give you a breeding ratio of 0.9 plus, right? Because see, a thorium breeder reactor will never be like a plutonium fast breeder reactor, plutonium fuel fast breeder reactor. The breeding ratios for a thorium MSR will always be, that is thorium 232 to 233, will always be less than 1. But even getting there is a challenge. Or maybe slightly around, or just around 1. Thorcon and all, well, some other time. Next question, HAL 2021 asks, will a civil war in Pakistan increase the nuke threat for the region? Unfortunately, yes. Also, when do you see India moving away from welfare-only economics, especially in states? It's not possible to move away. Oh, you mean welfare only? Okay, yeah, you have to move away from welfare only. Because see, remember one thing, when you talk about a state government can actually go bankrupt. What is called essentially sound finance, the sound finance paradigm is obviously applicable to the state government, because it doesn't have the ability to inflate away, essentially, because it doesn't issue its own currency. It cannot borrow from itself or it can borrow from via central bank. Okay, I'll just have to take a break for 2 minutes and I'll be back. All right. Well, those were some pesky neighborhood kids. They were bothering me. Maybe they want to be part of IAH. Anyway, so states will have to tighten their belt. There's no two ways about it. I think there was some article about there are many Sri Lankas in India. Well, Sri Lanka is a sovereign government, but the Indian states are not. So they will have to tighten their belts, because they are on a fiscally unsustainable path. Okay, next question. AKC asks, okay, does the lack of MOS make Tejas inferior capability-wise? Asking because Harshvardhan Thakur once said that it doesn't matter much for a fighter. Well, it does. I don't know what he said, but it does, which is why we are going to see a dual-color missile approach warning system on the Su-30 MKI. But Tejas, it's not a deal breaker. That is probably what he meant when he said this. Okay, next question. Deepak Dahiya, in which decade do you think India will become a net defense exporter? 2030s. I think by the late 2030s, India will definitely become a net defense exporter. Okay, Foxwin asks, so are Chinese cyber attacks increasing in India? There was an article from the Telegraph that from Intel inputs, Chinese are again planning fresh incursions. The Chinese cyber attacks are definitely increasing. There's no doubt about this. Even we at DDR are of the opinion that they are indeed increasing. Fresh incursions, that could well be on the cards, but they won't get away with it. And so you see, it's like this. When the PLAGF's mode of operation as laid out by their doctrine is, they first create an encroachment somewhere, then they posture by building up to make the other side accept the encroachment. If the other side doesn't accept the encroachment, they may gain the initiative by striking first, which is a much softer operation. Then when that doesn't work either, then they look at quick battle for quick resolution, where they concentrate on multiple points. So they may think of escalating to that. That is something they would definitely consider, because you see, the only other option open to them is to resume the disengagement process and keep stalling for a while and then extend it out like Sundaram Chu. I've analyzed this matter in a forthcoming article. I'll share it with you guys. But they won't get away with it, and the more we build up, the less they'll attempt this. In fact, they probably may not. But the window is there. There's a window from now till the coming winter when they could try such games. Okay, next question. Okay, we have a question here and we have a question there. 1 second. Copsis GX asks, will the shipyards go idle in absence of sub and warship orders again, or is there any backup plan? Is there actually an XL-UUV program between MDL and Navy? Recent NUH orders for ALH or LUH as well? Okay. Well, the shipyards can't be allowed to go idle, and right now many of them, their order books are pretty full, so they're not going to go idle anytime soon. But yes, the hull fabrication unit in MDL has been idle for a long time, the submarine hull fabrication unit. So it stands to reason. You see, it comes to this: if you have made your piece operating 6 Scorpion class, see if you can negotiate a better deal with the French in terms of indigenous content for 3 more. And let those be produced, then go on and on with this P75I saga. Even I am leaning towards that now. But then it has to be worth our while. You shouldn't be producing 3 more Scorpion on the same kind of terms that the first 6 were built on. Okay, next question is the XL-UU program. Yeah, I think there is such a program. Recent NUH orders for ALH or LUH as well. I think they'll be both they'll first be for the ALH and then they'll be for an NUH derived from the light utility helicopter. Okay, Aditya Prakash asks, what went wrong with the TOT with HDW for subs? Former naval chief termed it a fiasco. Also same seems to be with Scorpions. Something wrong at Naval Design Bureau, can't seem to absorb sub-tech. Some people say that, but I don't. I have a high regard for the Indian Navy's DND. What went wrong with those deals? I think you can draw your own conclusions based on all the stuff that has been written about them over the years. Okay, and I think those are not off the mark. Path. Speak about the Ukraine crisis. What does Putin want? Whole East Ukraine, the Southeast Ukraine, because now actually they wanted, as I had said then also, they wanted Kyiv to show that they could threaten Kyiv and Kharkiv quite easily, take it also very quickly, and they would take on basically the ethnic Russian heavy parts of Ukraine and the Russian-speaking cities along the coastline, and make Ukraine a landlocked country. They should have ended this war by now, because people in Ukraine are losing tragically, and obviously the Russian people are hurting as well. But obviously they can't now back out without what they will call a victory. So in my view, they are going to really up the ante along Donbass, first Donbass. Then there is, of course, talk about whether they'll go from Izium to Dnipro, or they have a much more modest plan in place. It remains to be seen, but I think they're going to give it the whole hog now. So that's what they're going to do. So we are going to see a lot more violence, unfortunately. But honestly, I'll tell you one thing. I overestimated the preparation of the Russian army, the Russian military. There are many gaps and lacuna. I would even go so far as to say that whatever money is sent their way may not be being spent on what they said it was being spent on. But at the same time, you can see from the number of Iskandars and calibers they've launched that missiles continue to be a Russian strength. That is also true. So basically, Putin is going to assault the southeastern part. I don't think he's going to commit the brigades, the Moscow-based brigades guard for another assault on Kyiv or something. I don't think that is on the cards. I think you're going to see a very violent campaign in the Donbass. Okay, next question. We have a question here, Kartika. Sir, when we collaborate with Safran, what sort of a TOT can we expect for engine development? Would they really be sharing the know-how and why? Well, they better. Otherwise, there will be no collaboration with them. And so things like TBC and specific materials in the code, obviously they'll have to share it with us, plus validating the design, etc. Shayan Roy, Dada, love your show. Thank you for that. The Object 30 is only 300 kg heavier than GE 414. Can it be compatible with Tejas Mark II? Unlikely. Although the intake of the Tejas Mark II can probably cater to a higher mass flow than what will obtain with the GE 414, but I don't think East Delhi or Object 30 is compatible really. Anyway, Mayank Tola asks, good evening. Yeah, good evening to you as well. With all the efforts towards indigenous equipment, what is the mood of Chandigarh lobby, especially Indian Army? Are they willing to buy homemade equipment? I think the Indian Army is as patriotic as it has ever been, and it is very much willing to buy homegrown equipment. That is not, what you should take from whatever is said here and there, right? The Indian Army is very much committed to indigenization. And of course, the Indian Army has to, keep upgrading itself and also look face forward, get out of coin and those things. But the Indian Army is also committed to indigenization, there's no doubt. Next question. Shivam Dubey. Sir, some reports saying India-Russia collaboration in space weapon. Can you explain what weapon is? Okay. I told you, space warfare system, so co-orbital ASAT is something you should think about. Deepak Pandey. Good evening, sir. Does DRDO have BLISK manufacturing technologies? Yes, my DMRL, DRDO and HAL put together, yes, they do. DMRL, Midhani and HAL could have put together, they do. Okay. Gabbar RF. The recent explosions in IA ammo storage don't paint a good picture. Are there steps being taken to solve this problem? Yes, they don't paint a good picture. I agree with you. Apparently steps are being taken. Let's hope that happens. Abhishek Khanapure. Who is helping India to develop modern naval reactor and pump jet propulsion system for SM class submarine? Nobody right now. Whatever inputs had come from the Russians, that's where things remain. The rest of the stuff has been done indigenously. I mean, the reactor physics was validated by the Ruskies, but since then, what we have is our own essentially. Pump jet, let's see. There are people who might be willing to help, but they'll charge a bomb. Navneet Kapoor. DW advancement for anti-drone and projectile and updates. Okay. So, 2 kilowatt system, fiber-based laser, 10 kilowatt system, 2 kilo have both been operationally tested by now. 2 kilowatt system has TOT has been done with Bharat Electronics Limited, and the 10 kilowatt system also is in process. Talks are in process for transfer of technology. So you're going to see both being produced and deployed. Okay, and as far as but they are anti-drone counter UAV systems. They're not CRAM systems, counter rocket artillery mortar systems. They're not that mortar systems. They're not counter artillery rocket mortar systems, and they are what we call that. But much work has been done in terms of fine positioning systems, collimation, then same thing basically. I mean, power sources. A lot of advancements have been made in semiconductor laser diodes, power sources and stuff. Laser sources, not power sources, laser sources, the one that pumps the laser. And in terms of power sources, also a lot of work has been done. In terms of thermal management systems, work has been done. In terms of electro-optical tracking systems, a lot of work has been done by IRD. In terms of gaming and all is being looked at for developing better models. Basically, you see, when you track, you have to also track something which is with a lot of clutter in the background, right? And which target you zero in on and stuff like that. So DW, many of the things are advancing, but there are other issues. You see, when you go from 10 kilowatt to 100 kilowatt, etc. First of all, you obviously just can't do it with just by adding more semiconductor laser diodes. What you need is spectral beam combining. of a much higher order, not just two beams combining, etc. So basically, the other fiber lasers become a source for one fiber laser. Also, you need, you also need to, you thermal blooming is always an issue, always. And it depends on the wavelength. So it's not so easy to deal with that. I know iron beam, all kinds of claims are being made. We'll see. They are talking about the iron beam being effective up to 7 kilometers away. Well, we'll see about that as well. And then there will always be the issue of jitter. That issue is there always, right? Phase shift essentially and stuff like that. So those things will have to be worked upon. And the biggest issue is that when you scale up, you really need very much better and much more efficient diffraction gratings, essentially for chirped pulse, for the compression stage of basically you need diffraction gratings for the compression stage of chirped pulse amplification. We are talking about a pulse power system here, right? When you talk about a laser DEW, and that is made up of very expensive materials. So that's also not easy to do. The world has moved towards multi-layer dielectric grating and stuff like that. I guess we'll also be there. But it's expensive. When we talk about laser DEW, it's all right to talk about deep magazine, cost per unit. But when you're talking about cost per unit, you're only mentioning the marginal cost. You're not mentioning the upfront costs of a system. And laser systems continue to have many limitations. Obviously, they are not all-weather systems. Even at high power, 100 kilowatt laser is not really an all-weather system. Then, despite advances in being able to, attack the electronic components and stuff like that, not merely trying to melt the wing or something, the bottom, because by using particular frequencies, wavelengths, the bottom line remains that these things can get overwhelmed. So you'll need more than one. They are ultimately line of sight systems. If there's a 360-degree attack, what do? You keep slewing it quickly. Doesn't quite work like that. Then countermeasures will also be in place. So you have to take into account the capital costs as well. And it has to work as part of a larger multi-layered system, which is networked, and there are many sensors. So it has to receive inputs from different sensors, put all that together. So there are issues over there. And there are these issues about with fiber lasers, you already solved some of the issues of the past. Fiber lasers are far more efficient, right? So you could reduce the size and logistics footprint considerably. You don't have to, in a deuterium fluoride laser, you would have to carry around huge bulk chemicals and stuff like that. Now you don't have to do that anymore, which is why they are at all possible now and not always 10 years away or something. Okay, next question. We have a question here. Is from what do you call that? Okay. Rahul Mishra asks, update about 114 MRFA and Project 75I, and also Saras 2, RTA 70 and Defense Expo. No update on Defense Expo. RTA 70 will go ahead. Saras 2 is already, you will see its rollout sooner than later. 114, I have said again and again, the MRFA will happen because the Air Force needs those planes. But of course, as somebody who supports indigenization, I would say we'll really have to be very clear about the terms of, the terms of the tender. If you are going to sink so much money into a foreign design, we better get what we want. And that includes help on the engine side, that includes help on the material side, that includes, at least some access to the source code, etc., etc. So that we don't have to beg them for upgrades every time and all that. So it's a work in progress. Project 75I, it's quickly becoming another ill-fated project, which is why now I'm saying maybe producing 3 more Scorpions is not such a bad idea. M. Anirudh asks, since AL31 is being manufactured in India from scratch, why haven't we gained some core knowledge from the same for our indigenous engine? We have. It's not like we haven't. We have. Frankenstein CS asks, any spec available on DRDO proposed submarine? No, nothing is available. And why was it rejected by the Navy? This is a question best posed to the Navy. Also, any plan by HAL to weaponize LUH for special operations? And last, will we ever see quad Helena missile launcher on LCH? Look, each Helena is some 47 kgs, okay? Why do you want to see 16 Helenas on an LCH? But you want the thing to take off, right? Okay, I'm joking. Anyway, and what else is there? LUH for special operations? Yeah, why not? I'm sure you're going to see an armed scout kind of LUH in the future. The work on that is already underway, probably. You know, a Kiowa Warrior or a A86 Kairos. I think that's the sort of thing you have in mind. So yeah, why not? Or even an Bell ARH, you know, that sort of thing. I'm sure you're going to see something of that sort. And and for export markets as well. And I think I've answered your questions. Okay. Right. We have Ritesh TR has sent $4.99. Thank you for that. It's highly appreciated. We have Shivam Dubey asking, say India doesn't have uranium. So, you know, actually it does. India's RAR has gone up over time. Only problem is that the ore concentration is much lower. In India, with the best ore concentrations are in the 1% range. Best. Average is 0.6%. In China, in Canada, you have uranium mines where the ore concentration is up to 20%. Obviously, that has the relative economics becomes an issue. Okay. India doesn't have uranium, so how do we increase our nuclear warheads like Russia has 6,000 warheads? We don't need 6,000 warheads. But we have unsafeguarded reactors. We will have unsafeguarded fast breeder reactors also in the future. That's how we will increase our fissile mix, the amount of fissile material we have. Okay. Elron Skywalker asks, when can we expect the podcast? Maybe May. I think I'll start off from May. Let me know what you think. Where should I do the podcast? I want a quick poll on that. At the end of this, not right now. At the end of this program, just put it in the chat box where you want me to host the podcast. Okay. Next question. Shubha asks, hello Dada, Shubha Varsho, to you as well. Wanted to know your opinion about our NAVIC system. Is it high time now to expand it pan-China from strategic point of view? Now the government on ISRO seems interested, whether they better be interested. We have to move from IRNSS to IGNSS anyway, right? So, I mean, Indian Global Navigation Satellite System. So, we'll have to do that. I don't see a way out of this. Okay, Nirmal Malik was asking a question, which I guess he'll ask again, or he's asked here. Nirmal Malik asks, why have the Kalyani made guns not yet been inducted by the army? You'll be surprised to know the other day Kalyani itself asked me this question. I'm not joking. Well, as I said, the question is best posed to the army, but of course we would want to see them being inducted, because after all, a lot of work has gone into these systems. So next question, Sagar Bhavsa. Sir, what is the export potential of the Nag family of missiles, and why is IA going for Spike missile instead of Nag, even if it failed in Thar desert trials? No, I think a limited number of Spike missiles were brought in by the Indian Army for operational reasons. They are not going to become they are not going to standardize on Spike. Standardization will happen around the man-portable ATGM as well. MP ATGM, DRDO's MP ATGM. And there'll be MP ATGM Mark II also, which will match the range of the Spike. I mean the Spike MR. Anubhav Srivastava, what is the status of the gun factory in Amethi? Also, do you think ATGS order will be ATAGS, order will be placed this year? Let's see. But ATAGS order will be placed. Whether now or next year, it will be placed. What is the state of gun factory in Amethi? It will produce small arms. Basically, personal defense weapons of the indigenous variety. Okay, here's a question from Elron Skywalker. The bridge on Pangong Lake is almost complete. I had talked about this bridge way back. that they were planning this bridge. Why is the army not stopping such Chinese incursion? It's not an incursion. It's on their side of the line of actual control. But the army is doing what it takes to secure these places, which is why I'm saying much more money needs to be pumped in to fortify and secure these places for good. So that, the Chinese are not tempted to resort to a quick battle for quick resolution. Because there will be then no quick battle for quick resolution. There will be a stalemate, and then Chinese doctrine calls for an in-depth strike, which means a large-scale conflict basically, which will have very unpredictable outcomes, as the Russians are finding out in Ukraine. So if you can blunt QBQR, then in-depth strike will not happen anyway. See, in my assessment, now don't ask me how I came to this assessment. There are valid reasons behind this assessment. Maybe one day we'll make it. I think a few thousand crores is enough to basically secure Daulat Beg only for good. And it's time that we did it. Okay. Arvind Narsiman asks, what is the status of the Kali DEW? And what's the operational status? We keep hearing about it, but never the final status. First of all, Kali is a kiloampere linear injector. It is something that generates relativistic electron beams. It is a DAE program, okay, and it's obviously it's a pulse power system, but it was essentially developed for particular kinds of material testing and all. Can it be used as a weapon? Well, a lot of engineering has to be done to make it, to turn it into something which is usable as a weapon. Okay, so there's no point talking about it. Obviously, it is not operational. It is something which, is being used by the DAE for a very specific purpose, and that's not really, that, and not as a weapon or anything, but as a pulse power source, as a REB generator. Okay. Then we have a question from Harpreet Sira. Is XRSAM the same as SFDR with ground launch booster? No. No. Copsys GX, but obviously there are things which are ported from one thing to another, but it's not the same as an SFDR. No. SFDR is different. Okay. Copsys GX asks, status of Pralay. I think Pralay will be inducted. Seeing the Russo-Ukraine conflict, Prahat, Pralay, Nirbhay, ITCM seem to be very vital for any future Indian offensive. Yeah, as I've been saying forever, and I'm glad that you guys have also internalized it. Sinking of Moskva should accept the real SRSAM project. It should. There's definitely a need to, intercept low-flying or sea-skimming anti-ship cruise missiles. But I'll tell you one thing. 2 Neptunes are not enough to sink the Moskva. So chew on that. Okay. MG has sent 1,000 rupees. Thank you for that. Sir, any news on IPWR 900? Not particularly. But of course, design validation and all must be going on. Also, are we going to complete PFBR this year? I hope we do. October 2022 is supposed to be the deadline for commissioning. Okay. Rupa asks, what is the possibility of the P75I design becoming indigenous and the current RFI withdrawn after single vendor situation? I think DRDO should be given a chance. NSTL had come up with a design which we talked about earlier in the program. And that time over it wasn't accepted. But now it should be given a shot in my view. Any possibility on India-Rus joint sub-development or India-FRA joint JV sub-development? Both were under discussion. But any new programs with Rus are problematic and any programs with France are super expensive. So take your pick. Problematic because of the American meddling all the time. Programs with Russia. See, America has been basically constricting India's choices in the name of strategic partnership instead of expanding them. But sooner or later, neither America nor Russia will be able to, go on like this. They need India much more than probably India needs them ultimately. Because India has to understand that keeping China, taking on China does not mean that you just keep leaning on one of these two. What you have to have a specific India-centric plan to keep China at bay. Because the problem is simple. You have to deter China, as simple as that. Many of the projects that we take on with the Americans or the Russians are about being net security providers and the huge notional, which is still really notional, Chinese threat in the Indian Ocean region. That's all fine. But right now, this decade, our main focus has to be on just securing the Himalayas. I just don't agree with the argument that we should ignore, and the British could not ignore when they used to be in India, and we can't ignore either. Okay, next question. Bastav Dotto asks, I have interested in 3 Squadron Rudra. Will it affect order for LCH? That's a good question though, actually. Let's see. I hope it doesn't. I see Rudra is cheaper than LCH, okay, and you can get it off just like that. But it should not, because the requirements are pretty high. Next question. Siddharth Sisodia asks, till when will we receive all units of S400? This is a question best posed to Rosborono Export. given their brilliant delivery timelines, I don't know. I just hope we at least get the second one in 3 months. Okay. Raghavas, your opinion on Indian Armed Forces theaterization plan and General Major Manoj Mukund Narawane for CDS? Cannot comment on the second question. Theaterization plan, well, no, per se okay, but what specific form theaterization will take is a matter for obviously deep discussion. And there are lots of silos to break down, and there are lots of, there's a whole issue of how it will work, who will take care of what. Maybe I should write something on this. Can't really answer this because it will take up a lot of time here. Okay, so, but I will write something on it. Okay, next question. Ashish Chawla says, hi Saurav, hi to you as well. Adisura asks, what are your plans for the channel? Yeah, what are my plans? It depends on what kind of support you guys show, because I have a lot of other things I have to do. See, DDR is a think tank at the end of the day. And we do act as a consultant to both government and non-government entities. So that's how we get by, that's what we do in the main. But as far as the channel and the content and other things are concerned, we'll have to see. It also depends on whether, you guys can make it reasonable for us to divert a lot of time to this. Because if we want to increase the number of products on our channel, we'll need more support, we'll need greater viewership. You may argue that if you want greater viewership, we'll need more products. True, but let's not get into a chicken and egg kind of situation. But what are some of the things that we intend to do is, A, we intend to have more outdoors content. So we'll visits, etc., where we'll, where there'll be a lot of value-added content on the industrial side of things, essentially. We intend to bring others to talk on our channel. We'll have these discussion-centric programs. We can have, a sort of a daily update going. We can have a program where I talk for maybe only 15 minutes every other day, rounding up events and giving my analysis of it. So there are many things possible, but then all of them are time consuming and resource consuming and have to be at some point, sustainable. Next question. Okay, we have Pranav asking again, is AK-203 dead? With the Ruski sanction, MRFA का पैसा किधर से आएगा? MRFA के लिए पैसा आएगा, ठीक है? वो मेन कुछ चीजों के लिए हमेशा पैसा आता है. Is AK-203 dead? I don't know. Can India live without the AK-203? Certainly. But is it dead? Maybe not, because you have that whole IR, PPL, etc. And ultimately, see, small arms, people crib so much, but small arms are still a least concern item. You can get ammunition, not a great idea, like the 6 Saurav 716 has had a lot of trouble with ammunition also. You're basically cycling all really hot LMG rounds through it right now, which is why you're facing trouble. That's a different matter. Okay. Subodh Deshpande, do we have an EMP warhead for our ballistic missiles? Will not answer even if I knew. Okay. Saptashit DG, when will but EMP warhead for our missiles is nothing great. We can do it. We already have developed NNEMP technology, non-nuclear EMP technology. A TBRL. Okay, Saptarshi DG says, where will our Desi Su-30 stand in comparison to F-15 Eagle 2? You mean EX, F-15 EX or Su-35? Is F-15 offered in MRFA really make sense. It only means that the Americans don't think the F-21 has any chance of winning. But anyway, I think Su-30 with upgrades will be pretty comparable to F-15EX and Su-35 because it's the counter in terms of the avionics package, self-defense suite and all that. Okay, next question. Sandeep Bhattacharya. Hi Saurav, what are the chances of selection of a fighter aircraft other than Rafale for MRFA? F-15 Eagle to Gripen? Poor, I would say. The only thing that really makes sense is Rafale. But if the French ask for the moon, then even Rafale will not happen. I have said this before also, that MRFA is for the Rafale, for Dassault to lose. They have to be willing to give India what India wants. Otherwise, there will probably be no MRFA. Because anything else, Gripen, yeah, but then Gripen has so many American, subsystems, etc. They'll have to agree to then giving everything, source code, etc., etc. Which I don't think Saab will be too willing to give. Or maybe I should let them talk about it because after all it is their matter. So disregard that. I don't know what Saab is going to be willing to give. So, but I know that, for the Gripen to make sense, a lot of things will have to be on offer. But what makes the most sense is still the Rafale. But again, with the caveat that it has to be worth India's while. Okay. We have another question. We have a question from Ashish Chawla. Do you think that the RFP for the future tanks is tailor-made for Russian Armata? Not really. I think NGMBT via SPV route is what is going to happen. Bulletproof gaming, progress on BrahMos 2? Let's see. I think it's contingent on what we achieve via HSTDB, via the HSTDB program. Kumar Mangalam Lambodia asks, hi Saurav, hi to you as well. Do you have any idea what China is working on these days since they have developed most of the existing weapon types? I'll tell you what are the key things they are working on. They are also working on directed energy weapons, both HPM and laser. They had some early HPMs, but now those were not that effective. Another thing they are working on is they have started a 6th generation fighter program. They are definitely working on a stealth bomber, which they call the X-20 and all that. A stealth strategic bomber. Then they are, They are also working on XL UUVs and other things, and a distributed architecture for underwater sensing. They are working a lot on, on the quantum side of things, on quantum cryptography and quantum cryptanalysis both. They are working a lot on quantum communications, as we know already. They are also working on different kinds of space warfare systems. So they are quite busy. They are busybodies and they are busy. There's no doubt about that. And most importantly, they are working on more effective ballistic missile defense systems. And across the board. I mean, mid-course, boost phase, and of course terminal systems as well. Okay, next question. Jeffrey Royan. Right, thank you for the 1,000 rupee transfer. And he says, thank you for the wonderful work you do at DDR. Well, thank you. Thank you for your support. And looking forward to Econ Salon. Appreciate it. Econ Salon. Linking your personal channel to DDR will make it easier to find. Had to dig around a lot. Okay, we'll do that. Please share what you can on the ISC one. A lot of silence of late. It's going to go out for its 3rd trial, sea trial soon. Aviation trials have not yet happened. That's the update. Okay. Desi Factor. So what about IF requirement of medium transport aircraft of 55? It was actually 55 IL-276. It was actually 40 IL-276. Well, let's see. Embraer has offered KC-390. We know that. We also know that the Russians would not be too happy if they are junked altogether. But then the IF wanted a particular kind of engine on the Ilyushin 276 which the Russians could not provide. I think both these options are there. And they should be explored, but with total design control. And it should be proper co-development or co-production. Not merely, again, license production of something. We should have design control. Okay, Raj Holkar asks, is IAC-2 still on the cards? It is, but I think it will be not super carrier or anything. Roshan Karn asks, do you think we should change our nuclear doctrine? This is a long discussion. I also think our doctrine should be tweaked now. Given the huge power gap we have with our eastern neighbor, or let's say in a war with China, how our nuclear posture should be. We should definitely look at closer integration of our conventional and nuclear forces, because the whole world is moving in that direction. Till today, the United States refuses to say that it will not use nuclear weapons first. Till today. Okay, and if you look at the command and control system, it is very much primed for a nuclear first strike. It's the Soviets who had basically a second strike system with perimeter, dead hand, that is, etc. And so on and so forth. Now also the Chinese NFU cannot be taken on face value. We have to move towards what is nowadays called integrated strategic deterrence. Another something that DDR is working on, and we will share the output also publicly. Okay, Kumar Mangalam Lamborias. Okay, any chances of more orders for Arjun Mark 1A in any form whatsoever? Any update on RTA-90 timeline? Timeline, I can't give a timeline, but I think it will be cleared soon by the CCS or something. Any chances for orders of Arjun Mark 1A? No, they even take it discharge, not for Arjun Mark 1A in the near future, no. It will take 5 years for all of them to actually join the army, because there's a whole plan of how they will go about it. 5 prototype tanks will be made, LSP tanks, then those will be trialed. Oh, there's a lot going on there. Bulletproof Gaming asks, is Rustam 2 Project Dead? No, it isn't. Aditya Prakash is asking, during the Cold War, we used to hear a lot about defections between US and Soviets. Some were ideological, others did it for money, but today we don't hear much about Chinese defections to the US, vice versa. No, but Chinese defections to the US are happening. In fact, some very key people have defected of late. See, what is the term that is used in spycraft? MICE, isn't it? Money, ideology, compromise, ego. These are the 4 basic tools that are typically used to turn somebody. And that war is always underway. Point is that we should also be looking to get Chinese people, Chinese functionaries to defect to our country, and dissidents as well. Why is America only the sought after land? Okay, next question. Avinash Diaz says, good evening, Indigenous Jha. Good evening to you as well, Indigenous Avinash Di, hopefully. Swarup says, the best, hello. Swarup the best says, sir, why not going for Air Force version of TED-BF? Doesn't make sense for them actually, TED-BF. Although, making a land-based version of a naval fighter is much easier than the other way around. TED-BF doesn't really make sense. It is being designed for the Navy, for their requirements. Air Force should go all in with the LCA Tejas Mark II and obviously the AMCA. And Tejas Mark II is no longer really an LCA, given its MTOW. Raj, okay, we have another question. Sparsh Kumar asks, is LCH getting squeezed between Rudra and Apache? I hope not. But yeah, we need to watch this carefully. Razor Sharpner asks, will IMRH based heavy attack Hilo be like Black Hawk, Pavlo, Rudra? No, it'll have a much more stealthy profile and all that, etc., etc. It'll not be like Pavlo or anything. It'll look like what you've come to understand, what you think is an attack helicopter. It'll be like that only. I mean, the Rudra, the LCH is based on the ALH Dhruv. How similar do they look? Do they look that similar? Next question. Suraj Shinoy asks, are we going with Safran or RR for engine development? Let's see. But I think you can make an informed guess. Navneet Kapoor says, any update for SSS defense for small arms? What is the quality? No one speaks about. What are the areas of improvement? Now paramilitary and police have JVPC, TAR, etc. Yeah, exactly. MHA forces should not be importing small arms, is my opinion. Okay, they should fight with what indigenous, whatever indigenous firms can make. Ideally, the army should also be doing that, but then okay, I'll give some benefit of doubt to the army because, and like I said, I'm not an infantry soldier. They have their own requirements, etc., 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 and all the caveats. And as far as update on Triple S Defense, well, they actually invited us to their range. We can go and DDR. We can go and try out stuff. Maybe we'll make a video on that from their range. And I think the Indian Special Forces community is quite interested in their products. Okay, Ashish had asked, Shubha Navavarsh Saurav Jha, Shubha Navavarsh to you as well. Any DRDO project for 125mm AFP SDS with 600mm DOPT? Yes, yes. Shubha, okay, next question is over here. We have another question here. Ashu Sharma asks, I'm interested in external affairs. What should I read? You have to read. You should definitely keep reading the papers all the time. And you must also go back in time to see how relations have evolved between countries. There are many good books. Maybe I'll put out a list at some point. But you should definitely read. You'll have to read a lot. And in that, well, that's what you want to do anyway. You will have to definitely read, keep updating your knowledge in terms of current affairs. So read a lot of papers, read articles, read stuff like even foreign affairs, etc. So that you can get a sense of what various strategic communities are thinking in different parts of the world, so on and so forth. Desi Fact asks, sir, progress on Navy tender of LHD, and is Navy and government serious on this? Let's see. See, we are having a proper amphibious capability in the Indian Ocean region is not a bad idea per se. I would say this. Being able to land somewhere on the Makran coast or on somewhere in the island, some island, or maybe somewhere on the East African coastline, having that capability is a good thing to have. I would say that. But will it take, is it top priority? I don't know. All right. We have another question here. So we have more questions coming in. Okay. We have Pranav asking, what is the difference between S3, S4 and S4 star and Scorpio SG? If you are ignoring for a reason, please acknowledge. Okay. I can't give you too much about this, obviously. S3, S4, S4 star, well, it's been reported also, S4, S4 star have an additional plug which will allow them to carry more SLBMs. I think let's keep it there. Scorpio SG, let's not compare with these. It's something, the design and everything, it's very different. So, okay, next question. We have a question from Shayon Roy asks, rather than making C295, would it have been better if you produced Chinook in India in large numbers? No, C29, they're not comparable really. C295 is required. You need something to replace those HS748s and the AN32 also. And I think C295 is a good choice there. Although Tassel must indigenize this thing. Tassel, it must go to a point where it basically creates takes over this design as well at some point. But then this is a matter between Tassel and Airbus Spain, not between you and me. But still, that is my view. Okay, we have another question here. Sandeep asking, where does HTSC 1200 stand against Artisan engine? Pretty comparable. They're comparable. Okay, Shagun Tyagi has made a very generous donation of $50, for which we are very thankful to you. And then we have Suryansh Chaudhary asking, why have the IF and IA not? Why don't they have a DIRCM in any of their platforms? Is there any development on DIRCM from Indian side? Yes, there is. DIRCM, indigenous DIRCM will be out there. And these were all matters of cost and where you're operating, what you're doing. Now you can claim that Kargil should have taught them a lesson to, proliferate DIRCMs off the board, but not really per se. And also DIRCM, there are three kinds of basic DIRCM technologies, and not all of them are, none of them are that effective. Okay, so there's always this cost-benefit calculus that must have gone in, but I think in the future you're going to see more DIRCMs. Doctrine is involved. Where do you fly? How do you fly? What do you do? What is it that you intend to achieve? Okay. Bulletproof Gaming asks, how long do you think we will take to become self-sufficient in defense? 15 years is my estimate. Okay. Then we have more questions by people who already asked questions. I'll circle to all of them. So let me just circle back. Right. We have a lot of questions. Let me go back and see what all have been asked by others. Answer. Siddharth Singh asked, sir, Halwai once told me in a private chat. You had a private chat with Halwai? That the ECCM abilities of BrahMos is terrible. Is there any truth to it? No. HAL 2021. Halwai, I think, basically regurgitates whatever garbage his Rand friends tell him. Or Randy friends, maybe. Okay. He's a joke, really. Then the HAL 2021 asks, is AUKUS or yet to be JAWKUS? It follows from that. The moment I was talking about somebody being a joke, you have JAWKUS, a backup for CORD. What use are these groupings given their weaknesses as laid bare in the Ukraine war? They have no use for us, obviously. I told you, we'll have to stand on our own. There's no other option. This is the only reason why I've been breaking my head about indigenization for so long. It's not like I had nothing better to do. I knew that if there is one thing that is fundamental for the future of this country, it is this, indigenization. And now others are beginning to realize it when the fat is on the fire. Okay. So, next question. Okay, Siddharth Singh asks, would choosing Rafales hamper a carrier's carrying capacity? If we do choose FA-18s, the Astra series would be integrated with their APG radars. Neither Rafale or F-18 is meant for our IAC-1, not IAC-2, IAC-1 kind of carrier, really. What was meant for them was something like the LCA Navy, and of course, TED-BF is definitely meant for them. Deepak Dahiya, in which decade do you think? I've answered this. AKC. Why is the Middle Kingdom failing so miserably in containing the pet chimera they unleashed onto the world? Because you see, they are too clever by half. They thought that their COVID-0 policy would continue till some highly transmissive but very almost non-virulent variant will show up in the world. With Omicron, they have a highly transmissible and quite virulent variant. So now they are failing. And also, this our friend Xi Jinping had made it a point to show that he was controlling everything while India was failing and the West was failing, etc. And so till his when he anoints himself as president for life, that is in the forthcoming Congress, they want to show that they have COVID under control. This is exactly why I say there is nothing to admire about an authoritarian system. Democracies, however flawed and supposedly slow, are better because once consensus is achieved, you move forward. Okay, you just move forward. See, America has taken almost, 250 years to get where it is, right? So we are only into our 75th year now. We need to be a little patient. We cannot just always become impatient and talk about authoritarian China. And we can definitely stalemate them across the Himalayas. See what happens to this Chinese system. It is brittle, mark my words. Next question. We had a question from Arnab Chatterjee. Has Ukrainian war fallout and possible right-wing victory in France election hurt the chances of a JV with Safran fighter engines? I don't think so. Is reviving Kaveri and finishing by 2030 still an option? It better be an option because there is no other option. You cannot be dependent on. We have to have our own engine tech, and whoever it is willing to give to us for a price. Obviously, we will collaborate with. Okay, we had more questions over here. Let me just circle. We have Abhishek, who I've answered that question. Answered this as well. Okay, Gabbar Arifaz, is the Indian rocket force taking shape, or will we be surprised again? I hope we are not. I think it is taking shape. Okay, answered these. Okay, we have Roshan Khan asking. I've answered that as well. Okay, we have Raj Dholkar asking, is the FICV program going to progress anytime soon? Maybe it will, because it's a large part of the Make in India push. I think it will. Saptarshi DGR, okay, Saurav Jha says MRFA lots of money and that too will take some time. Yes, it will. But not that much time also. Saptarshi DG asks, should India procure or join the Pak DA program to counter Chinese H20? See, everything is up in the air with the Russians now. Yeah, we can join, but then what are the implications of that? And India will need to bring in a strategic bomber at some point. But and these are the sort of high-end projects that make sense with Russia. But then there is the whole question of the turmoil that is going on. Right now, we need to indigenize what we can and really quickly, instead of expending money on a new program, because strategic bombers are very expensive. And also a program was basically the design control will be with the Russians. Okay, next question. Kumar Mangalam Lambori asks, do you see Nag and Namika being ordered? Yes. Shubodh Deshpande asks, is there any space-based weapon project currently under development in India? I think DRDO chief has been quite candid about this. Also, what will it take to wake up Department of Space from Kumbhakarna mode and speed up critical project beyond GSLV Mark III? The Prime Minister's office needs to be asked this question, okay? Because they are the ones who preside over the Department of Space, not you or I. So they are the ones best positioned to answer this question. They should do it, in my view. They need to light the proverbial fire behind somebody's ass, perhaps. Okay, next question. Okay, Saurav the best asks. Another question, sir. Bhaduria sir was so supportive of Tejas indigenous program. Do you think that has changed? No, I don't think. See, I said that about the Indian Army also. I think they also want indigenization. They have genuine concerns about what they want, which is why I always said we need to make them the owners of indigenous programs. You see, these things in the Cold War, if you go by the Cold War, in both America and the Soviet Union, the military used to drive these programs. There were no other options. There was no option to import from here, there, or anywhere. The import option should be curtailed and the military should be put in charge. Okay. Frankenstein CN asks, flagship taken down by cheap, low-cost anti-ship missile. Something doesn't sound right here. Your thoughts? 2 Neptunes with their 150 kg warheads are not going to be enough to take down a large cruiser. Okay, just not enough. So there's more to this than meets the eye. Okay, we had another question. We answered these. Shuvade asks, Dada, what's your take regarding HAL IAI MOU to convert B767 for IAF? Will they use ex-Air India aircrafts? An idea about the timeline? Can't give timelines, but I think many different platforms are under consideration. And this is actually a good development. It's something that I support. Then, okay, we have other questions here. We have a question from, okay, we have plenty of questions. I think I'm really exceeding my time now, but let me answer these quickly. M. Anirudh asks, have the armed forces come to a realization now to arm the Archer with ATGMs? Yes. Archer, in fact, is an armed version of basically the Rustam 1, or the Rustam 1. after Ukraine. Why has there been no update on Tapas? Because I think things are progressing. Subodh answered this. What is the status on AMC engine? It is contingent on the JV happening, SPV basically. So of the West. If indigenization is mantra, then why go for MRFA? Why not Orca? Because of the timelines. That is the only real reason. And of course, Orca is not exactly what the Air Force needs for its particular requirements. DC factor is KMGT upgradable to 25 megawatt. Yeah, well, why upgrade the KMGT? You can have two KMGTs in parallel. That will give you 25 megawatt. Okay, Deepak Dahi asks, what are the key technologies that you think India is still behind apart from jet engine tech? I'll give you many things on the space side. Space-based infrared sensing systems. Then what do you call that? Propulsion, other jet engine tech, other propulsion systems also. Even in terms of very large diesel propulsive systems, I mean, there's still some work left over there. Then there are there are issues related to, say, components that go into seeker systems. Even in those India is behind. But overall seeker tech, we are not that behind anymore. We are actually catching up now. And we have our own RF seekers, etc. Then there are other things also. Then there are things like, for instance, on the, what do you call that, on the, not on the projectile missile side so much, but even on the sensing side, there are some gaps which need to be filled. But those are being filled very rapidly, in terms of radar sensors, etc. It's mostly space-based systems. That is where India really has to catch up, apart from, of course, propulsion technology. Okay. What is the status of the Jetapur nuclear power project? I've written a whole article on this. I'll share it. When can we expect construction to start? Maybe sometime in this decade. Ayush Pandey asks, these are my last questions. Now, what about EOI issued by MDL for extra large UUV? This has been answered earlier. Sparsh Kumar, can we expect professional PR from DRDO anytime soon? Only DRDO can answer this question. Saptashi DJ asks, a Star Streak missile supposed to be made is India with BDL. Should Indian Army procure in the future? Let's see what happens there. There was some, MOU, but what comes of it, let's see. But it might be mostly for export. Let's see what happens. Nitesh TR, do you think one good thing that came out of Russian-Ukrainian conflict is that future armor will be Indian? Why is the OFB not run by defense forces with intake only from military and ex-military? There are many reasons why, now there is no OFB also. It does not have to be run by the defense forces, but the programs can be under the control of the defense forces. Okay. And future armor will be Indian? Yes, I think it will be. Both the FICV and FRCV should be Indian. So all the best, sir. Thanks for answering. All right. Any information on DW? I think we discussed this earlier. Lakshmisha KS sends 400 rupees. Thank you for that. And with that, we bring this session of Indigenization Appreciation Hour to a close. Thank you all for participating. All of those who have decided to support us in a pecuniary manner, we are very thankful to you. And keep up the good work, keep the support for indigenization going and spread the word. And do write into the chat box and tell me, where do you want me to host the podcast? Which platform is most suitable for you? Depending on the answers, I'll make an informed judgment. Right, thank you. Okay, I'll just take one more question. Lakshmisha KS asks, what is the status of the Saras 2 and Indian regional jet? I've actually answered these earlier. Do you see Russia buying Indian weapons in next decade given a growing edge in electronics? Less and less. Not really. Only the high-end projects may happen. But that will also depend on many things as I discussed earlier in the project. Alright. Good night to you all. Take care. Jai Hind.